So imagine waking up tomorrow and you discover that the cost of generating a flawless 50-page market strategy deck is just, well, $0.
Yeah, exactly, zero.
Right. Like something that used to take your entire team 3 solid weeks of late nights and endless coffee. Now it takes 10 seconds and it costs literally nothing.
Which is wild because it forces a total recalculation of what knowledge work actually is,
Exactly. So what do you actually charge your clients for today? I mean, what is the actual value of your job when the raw execution is free?
That is the big question. We are looking at a landscape where the fundamental unit of value has completely decoupled from the time it takes to produce it.
And that is the terrifying, yet honestly incredibly exciting reality we are diving into today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here. We've got some amazing material to get through.
We really do. We have a fascinating roadmap for this. We are looking at a working briefing titled AI Fluency for Agencies.
Yeah, and this was built on the AI Fluency 4D framework by Dawkins and Feller in collaboration with Anthropic.
Right, Anthropic. And our mission for you today, for everyone listening, is to decode how to actually work alongside AI effectively and, frankly, safely.
Safely being the key word there.
Totally. And I want to make something super clear right up front. Even though this source material was written with PR, marketing, and advertising agencies in mind, the mechanics apply to anyone.
Absolutely anyone.
If you are a solopreneur, a freelance writer, or, a corporate executive trying to future-proof your livelihood against automation, you need this framework.
Because we are moving far beyond the era of treating artificial intelligence like some kind of parlor trick, we are talking about establishing a permanent methodology for human-machine collaboration.
Okay, let's unpack this, because my biggest pet peeve lately is seeing those endless social media threads offering like 50 copy-paste prompts to do your job for me.
Oh, I know. They're everywhere.
Right. And the goal of this briefing is not to memorize temporary prompt tricks. Those are just going to be obsolete the next time the software updates.
Exactly. We are talking about building a lasting craft here. So let's start with the macro view, the underlying economic shift driving all of this.
Yeah, let's get into that. Why is this happening now?
Well, in the material, there is a rather stark visual. It's a graph charting the trajectory of what they call the commoditization of production.
Commoditization of production sounds intense.
It is. I mean, historically, in almost any knowledge industry, your competitive defense mechanism was just volume and speed.
Like how fast you could work.
Right. If you could churn out more code variants or more ad copy or more slide decks faster than the firm across the street, you won the account. High volume was your protective moat.
But when you drop a large language model into that factory floor, that moat basically evaporates overnight.
Poof, gone.
Because routine variants and basic edits become incredibly fast and incredibly cheap.
Which means you can no longer defend your business model by simply outproducing the competition. A machine will always beat a human on pure volume.
I was actually thinking about this, and it sounds so much like the invention of photography in the 19th century.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right, because suddenly you had all these highly skilled, realistic portrait painters who had spent their entire lives learning how to capture a perfect likeness.
And then the camera comes along.
Exactly. The camera comes along, and it can capture a perfect likeness in a fraction of a second. The cost of capturing an image basically went to zero.
But portrait painters didn't disappear.
They didn't. The value just shifted to interpretation. So we got Impressionism, we got Modernism. The value of the artist's specific cultural truth skyrocketed because the mechanical replication part was just handled.
What's fascinating here is how perfectly that historical parallel aligns with the briefing's core argument. They actually use a brain icon to symbolize what happens next.
The brain icon.
Yeah, to show that as raw output gets cheaper, human judgment appreciates in value. Clients aren't paying for the keystrokes anymore. They are paying for the strategy, the overarching narrative, and what the authors refer to as a cultural read.
Basically, they are paying for taste.
Taste and, honestly, the courage of a real idea.
I love that. The courage of an idea.
Because when everyone in the market has access to an infinite ideation machine, the differentiator isn't just possessing an idea. It is having the bravery to look at 100 generated options, select the single most resonant, sometimes riskiest one, and stand behind it.
And the briefing uses another symbol, a shield, to represent what might be the ultimate premium product in this new landscape, which is trust.
Trust is the new scarcity. I mean, when a machine can draft 1,000 convincing, highly polished articles in a minute, the inherent value of the article drops.
Right, it has to.
So the premium shifts entirely to the human who reviews that output, verifies its accuracy, ensures it aligns with brand safety, and officially stakes their professional reputation on it.
Accountability becomes the actual product being sold.
Exactly.
So, okay, if the work is being completely revalued from volume to judgment and trust, how do we practically interact with the AI to capture that value? Because the briefing maps out a spectrum of collaboration.
It does. It outlines basically 3 distinct modes of working with these models. And understanding the spectrum is vital because you apply different levels of oversight depending on the mode you're in.
Okay, so what's the first one?
The first is automation, symbolized by a robot. This is the simplest level. The AI performs a highly defined, repetitive task based on rigid instructions.
So this is the grunt work, like give me 5 headline variations or reformat this messy transcript into bullet points.
Right.
I tell it to do a thing, it does the thing.
Precisely. The next mode is augmentation, represented by a people icon. Now, this requires a significant cognitive shift.
How so?
You are no longer just issuing commands. You and the AI are thinking together.
Oh, like a brainstorming buddy.
Exactly. You might feed it a half-baked strategy and ask it to poke holes in your logic. It becomes a sparring partner for narrative architecture and creative exploration.
And then there's the third mode, which honestly seems to be where everyone is blindly rushing toward right now. Agency, the network icon. And to be clear, this isn't an ad agency, but agentic AI.
Right, where the model is configured to act on its own across a multi-step workflow.
It's making independent decisions and taking actions on your behalf without you pressing enter at every single intersection.
But let me pause you there, because if I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone listening, that third mode sounds like a massive liability.
Oh, it is a huge liability.
Because if I set up an autonomous AI to act on my behalf, how do I make sure it doesn't hallucinate a fabricated statistic, send it out to 100 clients, and trigger a massive brand crisis while I'm literally out to lunch?
That is the exact vulnerability most organizations are completely ignoring right now.
Yeah.
You cannot safely jump to agency without mastering a foundational infrastructure of trust first.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, a weak link anywhere in how you brief or review the AI will eventually break the entire automated chain.
Which is the perfect entry point into the absolute core of this working briefing, the 4D framework.
Yes. Delegation, description, discernment, and diligence. These 4 competencies are basically the mechanism for how we safely navigate those 3 modes of AI collaboration we just talked about.
They dictate exactly how we hand work over to a machine and how we handle what it gives back.
Let's start with the first 2 Ds, which are all about how you initiate the work. The first D is delegation. It's marked by a compass icon in the briefing.
Right, and the core concept here is that you shouldn't think of AI as a search engine. You have to cast the work just like you would brief a human team member.
It's an exercise in strategic resourcing.
Exactly. The authors divide this delegation into 3 practical buckets. First, there are tasks where you lean on AI.
The heavy lifting.
Yeah, these are your high-volume tasks. First draft variants, synthesizing massive amounts of research, or generating A/B copy at scale.
And just to clarify for anyone outside the marketing world listening, A/B copy at scale means writing dozens of slightly different versions of an ad or an email to test which one gets the best response.
Which used to be awful.
Oh, the worst. Pre-AI, a copywriter had to sit there and painfully tweak verbs for hours. Now that's something you confidently hand over to the machine.
Absolutely. The second bucket is what you co-create. This aligns with that augmentation mode we mentioned. You keep the AI close while you work on tone calibration, concepting, or structuring the logic of a major pitch.
And the third bucket, which I actually found incredibly insightful, is what you explicitly keep human.
This is so important.
Because there are certain domains where handing the reins to AI just destroys the value. The briefing isolates client trust, the actual breakthrough idea, deeply sensitive messaging, and final sign-off as fundamentally human territory.
Right, because an AI can certainly draft a crisis response letter, but a human must own the empathy and the relational fallout of that letter.
Well said. So once you have consciously decided to delegate a piece of work, you have to actually brief the machine. And that brings us to the second D, description. the speech bubble and light bulb icon. And the authors make a really compelling argument here. They suggest that creative agencies already possess the exact skill needed for this era.
Wait, really? Why?
Because a classic, rigorous creative brief translates perfectly into an AI prompt.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
The framework breaks this briefing process down into 3 specific pillars, right? Product, process, and performance.
Exactly. First, the product. You have to meticulously define the deliverable. What is the format? How long is it?
But the detail that really caught my eye in this section is the absolute necessity of never-dos.
Yes, that is a critical mechanism. Because without never-dos, a large language model relies entirely on statistical probability. It will generate the most mathematically average predictable combination of words based on its training data.
Which is boring.
Very boring. By explicitly stating what it should avoid, like cliches, certain phrasing, specific structures, you are mathematically restricting its probability space, forcing it into more creative, uncommon territory.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. I think a lot of people, myself included sometimes, treat the AI like a magical mind reader, like a wizard.
But you shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
You're saying I should treat it like a brilliant actor who has absolutely no understanding of the real world. If a director just says, act sad, the actor will give a terrible, generic soap opera performance. You have to give them motivation, constraints, and context.
That is a vastly better analogy than the tired, eager intern comparison. You are directing the machine's behavior, which connects perfectly to the second pillar of description, which is process.
Process. Okay, so not just the final product.
Right. You aren't just dictating the output, you are shaping how the AI arrives at the answer. You might instruct it, explore 3 completely distinct angles first, outline them, and ask for my approval before drafting anything. You are giving the machine a methodology, not just a destination.
And the third pillar is performance. This is setting the guardrails for the voice. Like, what is the reading level? What is the specific brand tone?
And this includes providing strict do not say lists. The authors highlight something crucial here about intellectual property, too.
Right. They argue that these highly detailed, effective prompts cannot just live in one employee's head as tribal knowledge.
They have to be codified. The best brief templates must be shared, version-controlled prompt systems across the entire organization. Your proprietary method of instructing the AI literally becomes the new intellectual property of your business.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't the entire promise of AI that it's supposed to save me time? If I'm spending 20 minutes meticulously crafting a brief with never-dos, a defined process, and performance guardrails, why wouldn't I just write the email or the strategy paragraph myself?
Because that 20-minute investment scales infinitely, whereas your human typing speed does not.
Oh, right.
Once you build that robust prompt architecture, you can apply it to 100 different inputs in seconds. You are building a machine that writes rather than just writing.
Okay, so we've delegated the task, we've described the parameters perfectly. The AI takes 3 seconds and hands us a completed draft. Now what?
Now we move to the final 2 Ds, discernment and diligence. This is where the human premium of taste and trust actually executes.
We start with discernment, symbolized by a magnifying glass. As we established earlier, when the world is flooded with instant content, the individual who can systematically judge that content best is the one who wins.
The briefing calls this applying the senior creative's eye.
And you judge the output using those exact same 3 pillars you used to brief it.
Exactly. First, you check the product. You have to ask yourself, is this genuinely good, or is it merely plausible?
Plausible is dangerous.
Very. Because these models are spectacularly good at generating things that sound incredibly confident and plausible, even when they are entirely hollow.
Which is why you have to evaluate the process. You have to interrogate the machine's logic. Did the AI use sound reasoning to arrive at this conclusion? Or did it just string together industry buzzwords that mimic expertise?
You cannot just review the vibes of a document. You have to trace the logical steps.
Finally, you check the performance. Is this output actually appropriate for this specific client in this specific market right now?
And this evaluation isn't a one-way street. The authors introduce a concept they call the describe-judge loop.
I love this loop. It's a continuous cycle.
Yeah.
You describe the task, the AI generates, you review it with discernment, you identify where your original brief was vague or flawed, you sharpen the brief, and you run it again.
Yes.
And I want to dig into the cognitive science of why that works so well. Because when you draft something from scratch, you experience drafting fatigue. By the time you finish writing a 10-page proposal, you're too close to the material to edit it ruthlessly.
You're just exhausted.
Exactly. But with this loop, the AI handles the exhausting mechanical drafting, leaving your critical faculties entirely fresh. Reviewing the AI's mistakes actually sharpens your own human taste.
It fundamentally upgrades your editorial eye, which leads us to the fourth and final D, which is diligence.
Diligence, marked by the scales of justice in a shield.
And the briefing frames this not as annoying corporate red tape, but as your actual license to operate. Diligence is the tangible manifestation of the trust you are selling.
The framework breaks diligence down into strict pillars, starting with transparency. This means agreeing on AI usage with your clients or your internal stakeholders right up front.
And they use a phrase here that is just,
You gave me chills.
no silent swaps.
No silent swaps. It is the single most important warning in the document. Think about how tempting a silent swap is. You have a massive presentation due in an hour. You are exhausted.
We've all been there.
Right. You need one more paragraph summarizing a competitor's financials. You quietly ask an AI to write it, you paste it into the slide deck, and you don't tell anyone, just to save time. What is the actual danger there?
The danger is that the AI hallucinates a revenue figure or inadvertently pulls in copyrighted text. When the client catches that error, it is no longer just a typo.
It's a total breach of trust.
Exactly. A silent swap instantly converts a time-saving shortcut into an unrecoverable crisis.
Which perfectly explains the next pillar of diligence: accountability. A named human being must own every single deliverable. The AI is the assistant, but a person must answer for the work.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture we started with, this accountability is the exact antidote to commoditization.
Oh, so.
Because you are no longer selling keystrokes, you are selling your willingness to look a client in the eye and say, I have verified this data, I guarantee this respects all intellectual property rights, it matches your brand's values, and I am putting up my professional reputation on the line for it.
So we have the 4D framework handling the reality of today: delegation, description, discernment, and diligence. But the briefing doesn't just diagnose the present. It gives us a trajectory for the future and a very practical 90-day playbook.
Yes, we need to look at the directional horizons they map out. They divide the future into 4 distinct stages.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is now, which is the era of augmentation by default. AI features are being embedded into literally every piece of software we touch. The reality is simple. Those who are fluent will simply outpace those who are not.
Then we move to the near horizon: agentic workflows.
Right. This is where you have an AI orchestrating a multi-step campaign across different software platforms, but critically, it has human checkpoints hard-coded into the process for final approvals.
Next is the next horizon: always-on brand agents. These are highly specialized models trained so deeply on a single brand's voice and parameters that they can respond to market shifts or customer interactions live, in real time, without a human prompting them every single time.
And finally, the far horizon. The professional as an orchestrator. This envisions humans directing fleets of specialized AI agents.
The human's entire value proposition becomes their high-level strategy, their exquisite taste, and the trust they hold with the end client.
And the briefing provides really fascinating context on how this trajectory physically alters different sectors. Take PR and communications, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Very soon, AI will completely handle the live monitoring of media and the drafting of initial responses. But the human professional will completely own the crisis judgment and the actual interpersonal relationships with journalists.
In media and marketing, AI will execute personalization at a massive scale, tweaking ads for thousands of individual demographics instantly.
But the human will own the overarching strategy and guarantee the measurement models are actually rooted in reality.
In advertising, the AI will generate infinite visual concepts, but the human must own the cultural truth that actually makes someone feel something.
And in account management and strategy, AI will relentlessly model scenarios and prep the insights. But the human owns the relationship, reads the room during a pitch, and makes the final, courageous call.
So, to prepare for all of this, the authors provide a sequential 90-day readiness playbook.
Right. Step 1 is audit and cast. You sit down, map out your daily workflows, and literally cast the tasks. What is automated, what is augmented, and what must be fiercely protected as human only.
Then step 2 is codify briefs. Like we talked about, stop letting your best prompts live in a Word document on your desktop. Turn them into shared organizational assets.
Step 3 is train the eye. Organizations need to make the describe judge loop a communal ritual. Teams should actively review AI outputs together to build a shared rubric for taste.
And step 4, set the policy. Publish a clear charter regarding disclosure, IP usage, and data privacy so every single person on your team knows exactly where the guardrails are.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Do you just print through this 90-day playbook once, check the boxes, and consider yourself permanently fluent?
Definitely not. Fluency isn't a certificate you hang on your wall. It is a continuous practice.
Because the models keep changing.
Right. The models driving this technology are going to constantly evolve. What an AI struggles with today, it might master in 6 months. Because the underlying technology is fluid, this 90-day playbook must be a quarterly cycle.
You have to constantly reevaluate your workflows.
Yes. But the 40s themselves, delegating, describing, discerning, and applying diligence, those represent the permanent cognitive framework.
It's like strength training. You don't go to the gym for 90 days and announce that you are fit for the rest of your life.
Right. It requires deliberate, ongoing practice to maintain the muscle.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, the core takeaway from this Anthropic briefing feels incredibly empowering to me.
How so?
Well, the professionals, the freelancers, and the agencies that dominate the next decade are not going to be the ones hoarding a secret list of magical prompts. They're going to be the ones with the sharpest judgment.
They are the individuals who practice these 4 moves until they become complete muscle memory. It stops being an AI strategy and just becomes the way they work.
And remember, this applies whether you are leading a multinational agency or running a solo consulting business from your dining room table. Artificial intelligence is inevitably going to push the cost of your first draft to zero. What you have left to sell is your strategic vision, your ethical diligence in protecting your clients, and your ability to orchestrate the machine better than anyone else.
We are elevating ourselves from mere producers of content to directors of capability.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with, something for you to mull over as you go about your week. The briefing ends with a quietly profound phrase. Models change. Imagination compounds.
It is a striking reminder of where enduring value actually lives.
So if you project this trajectory out a few years, if the AI eventually takes over not just the first draft, but the second and the third, if the entire factory floor of knowledge work is fully automated, what specific, messy, deeply human cultural truth or courageous idea do you possess right now that a machine could never replicate?
That's the real question.
Because in a world where everyone has a camera that can take infinite, perfect, instantaneous photographs, you urgently need to figure out what kind of art you are choosing to paint. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep adapting, and we will catch you next time.